What's up? Bonjour, buenos dias, and ciao, ni hao. It's me, Mr. Jordan. Today we're going to be looking at chapter 36 of The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. So first off, we'll do a brief recap and summary of the chapter. Then we'll get into a closer reading and do some deeper line-by-line analysis of the text. And finally, we'll finish with a few vocabulary words from the chapter, along with the context and definition. In chapter 36, our narrator Offred is called into the commander's office again, but this time he has a surprise for her. So it's actually quite an action-packed chapter. Relative to some of the other pensive thinking chapters, a lot happens here. So the commander presents her with a sequined dress, like a kind of ball gown or a night out dress, maybe the kind of thing a burlesque dancer or showgirl would wear. This idea of like sequins and feathers, it's pink and mauve and bright. And they're gonna sneak out of the house and go to some kind of nightclub. So he dresses her up, then puts her in a cloak, and it has this very fairy tale, almost like Cinderella sort of flavor or feeling to it. She hides in the foot of the car with Luke driving and the commander sitting beside her, and she literally gets down on her knees, Offred, covers herself in the cloak, and hides as they sneak through all these different checkpoints to the back door of this nightclub place. And when she's down there hiding on her knees, it's a very sort of like physical representation of the power, right? Like the men are sitting up tall doing their thing, legal with their passes, and she's literally being snuck out like some sort of parcel. Next up, we're going to do a close reading and some line-by-line analysis of the chapter. So the first section from chapter 36 is right after Offred has been given this dress by the commander. So she receives this like pink and mauve garment. It has feathers, it has thigh holes. We understand it's pretty risque or sexy. And then we're sort of told or recounted how this kind of clothing, anything revealing or liberal, was banned and discounted and removed from America when the shift to Gilead happened. Quote, "I wonder where he found it." This is Offred speaking of the commander. "All such clothing was supposed to have been destroyed. I remember seeing that on television, in news clips, filmed in one city after another." There's this idea that when information or ideas and propaganda were spread by the new regime that took over Gilead, always it was through mass media or public media channels that their ideas were spread. So just like the Pravaganza, and just like earlier when they'd taken away women's right to use bank cards or taken control of the workplace, when those civil liberties were taken away from women, the message or the idea was spread through propaganda. Similar to what happened under Goebbels, the propaganda minister of Germany, as well as the idea that radio has been used to spread hatred and genocide, and then more recently information has been disseminated through Twitter, Facebook, etc. to create strife or riots or chaos in the streets. In New York, it was called the Manhattan Cleanup. So here too, there's a reference to the Manhattan Project, right? To after World War II, when the United States had built a bomb. There were bonfires in Times Square, crowds chanting around them, women throwing their arms up, thankfully, into the air when they felt the cameras on them, clean-cut, stony-faced young men tossing things onto the flames. Recall this image of book burning and magazine burning earlier. Armfuls of silk and nylon and fake fur, lime green, red, violet, black satin, gold lame, glittering silver, bikini underpants, see-through brassieres with pink satin hearts sewn on to cover the nipples. So there's this idea of real repression, right? And the repression of these former choices and options are made into a big spectacle. So someone has to be punishment, right? To make way for the new, the old has to be destroyed. And the public has to see this destruction as a big event, a spectacle that they can take part in. And by witnessing it, it helps build this new myth of Gilead. We get into some tighter, closer scenes where there's a one-on-one discussion happening between Offred and the commander about her now putting on this illicit or illegal piece of clothing that he's procured. It's a disguise, he says. You'll need to paint your face too. I've got the stuff for it. You'll never get in without it. So this idea that Offred is transforming herself again, right? She's becoming a different character, a different person. She's playing a different role. This could be a subversion too of a classic fairy tale or myth, like again, the Red Riding Hood reference, or something maybe more similar to Cinderella, right? When she puts on the glass slippers, she becomes a princess. So she's going to put on this outfit, this glittering sequin dress, and become someone else. She's no longer going to be the boring, faceless, tame handmaid. In where? I ask. Tonight I'm taking you out. Out? It's an archaic phrase, meaning people no longer go out anymore. There isn't this idea of a night out on the town, right? Of having drinks and dinner and fun. They're living through another era of prohibition, right? Of no alcohol, no liberties. Surely there is nowhere anymore where a man can take a woman out. I know without being told that what he's proposing is risky for him, but especially for me. But I want to go anyway. There's this idea here that they're starting to be complicit too, right? Each time we see Offred discussing, talking, relaxing, playing, interacting with the commander, she becomes a little bit more implicit or involved in whatever it is he's up to, right? She takes another step farther outside of the realm of just being a handmaid and into this new area, the gray area, where she is having some sort of affair, under the table negotiation with him, right? They're playing games. They're taking part in this together, and that binds them. It gives them a deeper relationship and greater meaning and attachment to each other. Certainly not equal. The commander is still taking advantage of her, but she's now going along with it, right? And they're upping the stakes. I want to go anyway. I want anything that breaks the monotony, subverts the perceived respectable order of things. She's now jumping at the possibility to break a rule. Just like earlier, she wanted to steal something just so she could have a thing and possess an object. Now, even if she's not interested in this idea of going out or having a night out on the town with the commander, she's thrilled and excited and ready to subvert or break a rule for the sake of breaking the rule, right? Being a rebel without a cause. The chapter ends after they've driven through all the checkpoints, and right as Nick is dropping them off at the back door to this nightclub speakeasy, right? An illegal place of drinking and imbibing during Prohibition. The commander says, "We'll be fast. This is a back entrance." And he tells Nick, "Come back on the hour as usual." And so this hints to us that this has happened before. Offred knows that the commander's taken other women here. He's snuck out and been doing these licentious things with Nick, being complicit. Then right at the end he says, "Here, the commander," he says. He slips around my wrist a tag, purple, on an elastic band, like tags for airport luggage. Again, Atwood's really driving home the point that Offred and the handmaids and the women in Gilead are being treated as objects. Here she's compared to luggage, another reference to this idea of the industrialization or sort of animal type treatment, right? You can picture just the way a bird is tagged to track its flight, or a pig or a cow is branded or tattooed or tagged on their ear when they're going ready for slaughter. The same thing's happened to her, right? Her wrist is being tagged. "If anyone asks you, say you're an evening rental," he says. He takes me by the bare arm and steers me forward. This real feeling of like a rental, right? Putting a cost, a value on her, saying she's a product, she's something that he can buy and sell or trade in. There's some sort of market for women. And then he takes her by the arm and steers her. Okay, so maybe here another possible reference or allusion to cattle, a steer. It's a pun that Atwood's using. What I want is a mirror to see if my lipstick is all right, whether the feathers are too ridiculous, too frowsy. In this light, I must look lurid, though it's too late now. Idiot, says Moira. So right at the end, we're left with this sort of cliffhanger of, is Moira actually there? Or is Moira now become, for Offred, the sort of good cop, bad cop, little devil, little angel on her shoulder that's whispering in her ear like her conscience? You're an idiot for going along with this, Offred. Dunce. So there's this reference to a dunce cap. And historically, a dunce was a 16th century follower of John Scotus, and they were ridiculed for being enemies of learning. So the idea of being a dunce in Gilead means that you maybe refuse to learn the new ways or the new customs. So you're backwards, you're uneducated, you're a dunce. Black market. So an illegal traffic or trade in officially controlled or scarce commodities. For example, the men plan to sell the meat on the black market. Well, who's on the black market here? Offred, right? She's being tagged. Again, she's being treated like meat, like an evening rental. So there's a black market, an illicit or illegal trade in women being treated as sex objects. And we're about to find out more, we think. Frowsy, Frowzy. Scruffy and neglected in appearance. Seedy looking doormen, frowsy uniforms. Dingy and stuffy. This isn't a word you hear that often, but Atwood, of course, has an incredible command of the English language and uses a really wide vocabulary. So Offred, who's now speaking very much in a voice like Atwood herself, suggests the feathers are too ridiculous, too frowsy. In this light, I must look lurid. We'll take that as our last word. Lurid, unpleasantly bright in color, especially so as to create a harsh or unnatural effect. Presented in vividly shocking or sensational terms. It's from Latin, luridus, lurur, wan or yellow color, pale and dismal in color. So this real idea that she's being dressed up and put on display in bright, garish, in-your-face colors. And interestingly too, none of these colors are red. There's pink, mauve, yellow, green, all these other different bright, showy colors, but no blue, no red, right? So the color of the commander's wife, the color of the handmaid, are conspicuously absent. Thanks so much for watching. That was chapter 36 of The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Hope you enjoyed. Ask any questions or comments below the video, and I'll see you next time. Take care.